live here, the Box to Box Radio podcast. I am Travis Carmichael, you know by my voice and the music. This is the away leg. I'm so good, I don't need home field advantage. Sitting to my right, mic'd up, producer Chris.
Word up to your mama.
Wow, all right, easy. Take the mic away from him. To my left here is the one and only Mason Carmichael. Mason, how you feeling?
I was a little distracted during your intro. There was a grackle outside on the fence outside of the studio.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, just thinking about the anthem and, you know, how excited I am for professional soccer to come in Austin through MLS. Of course, it's already here through the Bold, but looking forward to MLS to ATX.
Wow, folks with transitions like that, they call him the professor. Love it, love it. He's already focused on Austin FC coming in. Guys, if you want to talk to us about Austin FC or anything, or just our show in general, you know how to get at us on Twitter. You can get at us at B_B_radio. Instagram is box_radio. Facebook, box_radio. And obviously our email is 90min@boxboxradio.com. We would love to have some away leg questions that you guys could send us so we could get at it even more. We are on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, and YouTube.
Yeah, I just also want to add to that list. I want to give a quick shout out to my boy Dalton Teague at Sincerely Yours Music for providing the amazing music on this podcast. Guys, follow him on Instagram at sincerely_yours_music for all of his new music that he's leaking out to the public. And of course, you can listen to his debut album, Golden Age, on Spotify and iTunes. Please give it a listen. If you like what you hear in the beginning of the podcast, please look him up. He's amazing.
Yeah. Enough nonsense, gentlemen. Let's get into it.
That was not nonsense.
It
that
wasn't.
was plugging a friend.
It wasn't. But anyway, let's get into it because I want to.
Sorry, Sincerely Yours Music. Travis apparently doesn't appreciate your artistic creativity. So
that is not true.
He also hates puppies, ladies and gentlemen. So don't ever listen to anything that he says.
This man is a liar. I just want to expose producer Chris now that he's finally had the courage to get on the mic.
Producer Chris is like the veteran that you have on the team to sell the jerseys. And then you finally have to put him into a big game, and he just gets completely exposed. And you're like, man, this guy used to be good.
He's like Drogba?
No, I was going to say, I'm like
Pirlo.
I'm a Pirlo, yeah.
He's Pirlo for NYCFC.
Wow.
He sits in the
Pirlo.
middle, and then like once a game, you're like, man, no one else in the world can hit that pass. But everybody else, you're like, man, he needs to stop eating donuts and hit the treadmill, something like that. So,
are you calling Pirlo fat?
I'm calling him out of shape in the end of his career, not fat. There's a difference.
Okay, that's fair. Well, speaking of players who may or may not be in shape, out of form, underperforming, that leads me to my first question, guys. So when you look at all these teams in the world, whether you're talking a relegation fight, whether you're talking about teams that should be in the Champions League and are not quite there, Manchester United, you look at, there's always a scapegoat. It's always somebody's fault. So gentlemen, I want to ask you, when you're in that situation, like I said, relegation fight or battling for somewhere, league title maybe that you're not going to win, whose fault is it? Is it the player's fault? Is it the manager's fault? Or is it the owner's fault?
Is this for like they're not giving effort or they're performing badly for the player standpoint? Or is it sheerly like how the team is performing?
So I would say I would use a Manchester United. You bring in star players that are supposed to win you the league.
Yeah.
And then these guys are just really can't necessarily be bothered to do what you thought they would do.
Okay, so it's the player's fault. Like plain and simple.
Disagree.
Of course. It's the player's fault because you're getting paid millions of dollars to succeed and perform at the highest level. So I look at players like Paul Pogba at Manchester United, who obviously you look at him and that's the worst defensive effort I've ever seen when he steps on the field. He's getting paid more money than I'll ever make in my entire life to track back, and he watches the guy go. Gareth Bale came out today after a game. Zinedine Zidane said, like, even if he had 4 subs, he wouldn't play Bale. Bale said, that's fine. Unless I make $117 million at another club, I'm going to see out my 3-year contract. I'll just play golf, right? So that, to me, the manager obviously is saying that you're lazy and doesn't deserve to play in his 11 or in his 18. So you come back at him and say, okay, well, I'm just going to be lazy to prove you wrong. Like, okay, that's stupid. I also think of players like Antonio Nocerino for Orlando City. He comes in, big money player, and his performance on the field was garbage, and it wasn't due to lack of skill, it was lack of effort. So I feel like it's the player's prerogative, if you're going to be paid that much money, step up, play well, do what you're supposed to do. If not, don't be surprised when you're benched or cut, which again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Jose Mourinho lost his job for benching Paul Pogba, but he was justified in benching Paul Pogba because he's got a multi-million-dollar player that's playing like an academy kid, which is it's ridiculous.
Look, it comes down to the right fit, and there are reasons why people are good at this, and certain clubs are good at this and not. So for me, you look at, I think the biggest example would be like a Liverpool.
You're darn right.
Okay, relax. So Liverpool, for example, I don't think they went out. Like, you could say now that maybe like Salah is like one of the best players in the world, but when they bought him from Roma, people were like, okay, he's a good player, but he's not in the top 10 in the world. So it's the matter of buying from an intelligent standpoint. So are you buying players that fit the system? Are you buying players that are going to come in and work hard? Are you buying players from a good business standpoint? So for example, like Salah is he's Muslim, which is like a huge market in terms of like from the business side of it. Same thing when you hire like a Christian Pulisic gets picked up by Chelsea.
It's Pulisic.
Pulisic gets
He's
picked up.
explicitly said his name is Pulisic.
So when he gets picked up by Chelsea, that's a really big business standpoint because they've now unlocked that market. So the American market, which is a huge thing. So it's a matter of, buying intelligently. So I think it's the owner's fault. I think when
I agree.
Oh,
I agree.
Really?
I agree. Yeah.
Wow, producer Chris coming out of the woodworks here.
I agree with it.
So like at the end of the day, you can say, well, Paul Pogba's getting paid so much money, he should be better. But if you don't think he's going to be good, then why would you pay him that much money?
But my counterpoint to that is like, is it the owner's fault? Because when Paul Pogba was playing at Juventus, he was performing at a high level. He was giving his 110%. He was scoring great goals. So you bring him away and you buy him and you pay money for a player to pay for the player that you got from another team. And you want that player to be as good of a character as he was at his last club. So if I'm an owner, there's no way to tell if that player is going to sulk and be a crybaby at your club just because things aren't going the way they want him to.
But it's your job to figure that out. It's your job. This is why people get paid.
But it's the player's job to say, screw it. I don't care if I'm playing for a 6th division English team or for Real Madrid. I'm going to give my 110% because I am a professional. I'm paid money to do this for a living. I'm paid thousands of dollars. I'm going to give my effort no matter who the manager is, who the club is, or who the owner is. And I think it is a shame and a crock that we allow players to take clubs hostage and to take managers hostage and say, look, I'm not going to perform at my top level because I don't like the club and I don't like the manager. You either sell me or I'm not going to play at my top level. Like Gareth Bale's comments, ridiculous. Zidane was justified in his comments today. Like, even if I had 4 subs, I'm not going to play Gareth Bale. Do you know why? Because Gareth Bale came out and proved him right in that comment. He was saying, hey, I'm just going to play golf, right?
So
you know what?
Gareth Bale's fault because he signed a good contract?
It's Gareth Bale's fault that he's lazy and he's not willing to work for his contract. That's what I'm saying.
This is the most ridiculous thing. So why would you not? And it's not that he's not wanting to work for his contract. Zidane came out and said, I'm not going to play him.
So prove him wrong.
No,
if you're Gareth Bale, prove the manager wrong.
No.
In the articles, it shows that his attitude is poor. It's just terrible every single day. Every time he's on the training ground, it's just terrible.
Then get rid of him.
Exactly. But who's going to pay that 117 right now?
Figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, of course. But here's the thing is that when it comes down to the ownership, right? Who hired Ole Gunnar? Ownership. That's their fault. They should have never hired him full time. They should have never. No. Seriously, you guys had mentioned it in a previous.
Yeah, I think they jumped the gun on hiding Solskjaer.
Exactly, and that is their fault. They should have waited till the end of the season.
How does that? But how does that impact the player's effort?
Because he's not able to motivate them. He's not able to get into their heads.
They're grown men. They should be able to motivate themselves.
That doesn't work that way. It doesn't work.
That's ridiculous.
That's why there's a coach.
Excuse.
It's not Sunday League, and you can just go around and work hard and be great.
There's a coach to identify the top talent and top performers that week and have a clear hierarchy to say, okay, I'm the person in charge of fielding my best players. It is not a manager's job to self-motivate a player.
Yes, that is the role of management. You have to get a group of players who all want what is best for them and say, how can we, as a group, come up and have a group identity and a group goal and sacrifice that to complete the group goal.
It is the manager's job to make these players buy into the system, buy into the club, and buy into every single thing that they do.
Okay. It's the manager's job to have them.
Why.
It's the manager's job to have them buy into the philosophy, but it's not the manager's job to hold their hand and say, hey, You're a professional footballer. I'm going to need you to give a little effort this week. That has to be the man.
Some of
that
these
has
guys-
to be the player that's been paid several $1 million a week to do that. That is ridiculous that we're giving excuses for these players.
We're not
Don't
giving them
play him.
excuses. Exactly.
don't
But if you don't
play
play him,
him.
you get fired if you're the manager. That's ridiculous to
But
me.
if you're
Then don't buy the player as an owner group.
How are you going to
That's
know
the
as an
owner's
owner
fault.
that player is not going to put an effort when
It's your job to do the research.
The rest of his career. So Paul Pogba, for example, when he was at Juventus, he gave 110% effort.
Because he played a completely
when he was
different
in
role
France,
in a
he gave
different
110% effort. So when you buy him for Manchester United, what do you expect? For him to give 110% effort. When he was at United, Ferguson, he was given 110% effort. Ferguson was like, no, I got better players. Don't want to play him, right? That's why he left. It wasn't an effort issue. It was, I have better players. We don't need him. So he comes back to Manchester United. You expect for him to give 110% effort. Gareth Bale, same example. Gave
He never had to
110%.
sign the contract.
Gareth
He never
Bale
had to
was
go to
great
Manchester United.
for several years, though. You're talking about someone who helped them genuinely win the Champions League several times.
But why now is it the manager's job to motivate the player?
It's
the
always been.
If you're
always
getting,
been.
if you're a professional athlete and you're getting paid millions of dollars, I don't give a crap who you are. Motivate yourself. That should be motivation enough to try for your club. Because if, in my opinion, for the jobs that I've worked in the past, if I do a job at my office or in my workplace or on the podcast, guess what? I'm getting fired if I don't care. And that's what happens to these
but
players.
that's it right there.
And they have the safety cushion of these long contracts to where, oh, well, I don't really have to do anything. That's ridiculous
And
to me.
that's
And the
bad
players,
business.
you should be ashamed of yourself.
That's
ownership.
bad
That's right.
business.
That is bad business.
So
That's
if
right.
you came on if you signed a podcast contract and producer Chris came to you and said, Mason, I'm going to pay you X amount of money to do the podcast. Great. I'm going to sign you in, guaranteed 5-year contract. Outstanding. And then all of a sudden, you just magically turn. You'd never do this because you work hard and you care about it, and that's a personality issue. But say you did, and Chris had a bad judge of character, and then you were just like, meh, you know what? Whatever. And Chris kept having you on the podcast and kept paying you money. That's Chris's fault because he gave a bad business deal.
I guess I have more faith in humanity than you guys do.
Yeah, I don't. I don't have faith in humanity.
Like, I think I'm just calling for more effort from players, right? I understand you've got a guaranteed contract, but like, I think it's just the generational thing, right? So
I agree with you, but
work harder to make more money. Don't sit there and say, I'm Gareth Bale, I'm making $117 million. Like, transfer somewhere, make a little bit less, work your butt off, get an extension, and be set for the rest of your career. You know what's going to happen to Gareth Bale? His contract, he's 30 right now, right? He's about to turn 30, 29. He's going to run the rest of his contract out. He'll be 32 when his contract's up. And if he just sits on the bench for 3 years, guess what? His next payday, which could have been huge as a 32-year-old for his final payday, signed a 2-3-year deal at a big club, is going to be non-existent. You know why? Because he was a brat and chose to rot on the bench.
hold on. So you're talking about, and I don't think this is fair, and I get it. You know, Bale has a bad attitude, and Zidane and him aren't getting along, and he's not going to play, and Bale's like, fine, then I won't play. I'll just make money. But like, you expect a man who the playing career of these players is become shorter and shorter nowadays because it's a young man's game. You expect someone who is trying to make a living for their entire lifetime in the span of 10 to 15 years to say, you know what? I'm going to take a ginormous pay cut because it's the right thing to do, and I'm going to go play. Absolutely not.
It wouldn't be
good for the man.
It wouldn't be a ginormous
It
pay
might
cut
be.
for Gareth Bale. He'd easily make over $100 million the next club he signed at.
But is he going to make the
Easily.
same money he's making now? No. So why? Like,
But you have
if
a
you don't
probability
like
to
me,
sit-
that's your problem.
as an owner seeing this, I would not sign him.
But you have
at $100 million, I would not sign him.
I
because
disagree
of the fact
because
that
of his talent, though.
You think Liverpool, like a club like Liverpool, would pay for him $100 million?
I don't think Liverpool would, but I think a club like United might.
Yeah, and that's exactly
Again.
my point. We're falling back into the Paul Pogba traps, throwing bad money at bad solutions. Paul Pogba had a really fancy World Cup.
But
He's a
you
good
can't-
player. Boom, $150
But you
million.
can't say it's a bad business decision,
Magic.
too, because how many times have we seen players with bad attitudes and bad situations go to a new club and light it up? Right?
Yeah, but that's
Because
your
it's-
job as
it's
the owner
the
to
way the
do
player's
the
motivated.
background research. There are files on files on files on files on these players, and you have to do
But
the research.
It's a flawed system, right? Because you can never do enough research and predict the way a player's going to pan out, right?
Yeah, it's not an exact science. That's why it's a game and not.
but they can
written on paper.
They can talk to a lot of their friends.
But let me give you this little nugget of information too. So like Cristiano Ronaldo loved Real Madrid, fought hard for Real Madrid,
Right.
Best years of his career. comes to Juventus, has one season where he doesn't compete for a Champions League, right? And he made the quarters, which nothing to be scoffed at. You made a quarterfinal of the world's biggest club tournament, right? Guess what? He throws a fit and throws all of his teammates under the bus.
Whoa, easy now.
He does. He said, my teammates are not good enough to win this trophy.
Is he wrong?
No.
Okay, so what's
he's
the
not
problem?
wrong, but-
Did he ever on the field throw like a little tantrum, like, oh man, woe is me, I'm not good enough? No, when his team needed him, he stepped up. He scored a hat trick against Atleti, and he almost got them back into the game against Ajax. So, like for me, he can say that because he's correct and he did everything possible to try to win the game.
But again,
he's right though.
As a professional athlete, like if
But
you
he's right.
Wait, if you and I are in the workplace and we look at our boss and say, "Hey, boss, Jenkins isn't good enough at his job. You need to fire him right now because he's not on par with where I am." Right? What happens? Jenkins doesn't get fired. We probably get fired because we're not team players.
Again, ownership. They should bring in the best players around the other best players to make it work.
So I agree with you to some extent, but I still think the onus is on the players. I agree with you. The ownership has a
Look
flaw.
at Ajax is a perfect example of what a good ownership looks like.
Even Man City.
Man
City bought smart. They bought correct. You look at that. Also, they have a coach that can
Did they buy
manage the
smart?
personalities.
But Riyad Mahrez, right? He came into a situation where he knew he wasn't going to play as much.
He
and
knew,
his attitude's
yes.
been poor.
Poor enough to affect on the field results? No.
For him, yes. He missed
No.
a penalty kick against Liverpool.
Okay.
Because his confidence hasn't been high.
That was like a month into his tenure yet. And
That was
just,
more than a month.
That
That
was
was-
a guy just missing a penalty.
That was almost halfway through the season.
What competition?
in the
In
league.
Premier League.
Who won? Doesn't matter.
It was 0-0.
The league.
It was still
Do your research.
but it was still but Manchester City still won.
I know, but at the same time, Riyad Mahrez is coming out publicly and saying, "Oh, well, I want to play more." Shut up! Work harder. You want to play more? Work harder.
Like 6 months later, these two incidents are like completely unrelated.
So what did Mahrez do on the field for Manchester City?
No, that's why he didn't play. That's fine.
Exactly. Onus is on the player.
Yeah.
If you want to work hard and play above your means currently and work your way into a spot like Lionel Messi for Barcelona, when he first came out and started playing, he was the smallest guy on the field. He wasn't really that fast. He worked harder than everybody else to gain that spot. And still on the field, you look at him against Liverpool. He was one of the only guys I thought that was given his 100% on the field. It was him
Okay, so if you
and
go-
Arturo Vidal.
If you go to the grocery store, you buy a bag of apples. Is there going to be one? One bad apple?
Sure.
What do you do with it?
Gone. Chuck it.
Exactly. So
So-
it's the responsibility
But is it your
of
fault?
the owner.
But hold on.
You
Is it
bought
your-
that bag of apples. Yes, it's your
Is it your
responsibility
fault
to make
as a
the decision.
consumer if you didn't know one of the apples was bad? If you,
It's your job
from
to know.
all
Exactly.
of your
Yes.
all of your knowledge, looking at the apples, squeezing them, whatever, that you thought all the apples was good and one happened to go bad before the rest of them did. Is that your fault as a consumer?
Yeah, that's why you as a consumer should do your research. You're not going to go to HEB and then go to Randall's and then go to Walmart.
I hardly disagree.
And think
Heavily
that the produce
disagree.
is exactly the same. And then that's a completely different topic because it's
So,
groceries. But
Chris and
still,
Travis-
it's the same thing.
Chris and
you as
Travis-
a person need to make the decision as an owner or as a management team need to make
Yeah.
the decision on the group.
So I agree with you guys that the management is at fault in this too because they're not doing as much research as they should be. But I still think, like I said earlier, the
wrong.
main onus is on the players to work harder because you are getting paid for this. You should take pride in your work, whatever. It's an ideal
So
situation.
that's a personality
but
trait.
I'll
That's
die
not
on the
a
hill.
requirement.
It should, in all
I
honesty.
mean, yeah, but it's a
But how
personality trait.
what separates a player with the same skill level going pro as somebody else? It's
Okay.
their personality. It's their work ethic.
Right,
So
which you should do the research and buy the players that fit the personality of your club and your manager and your group collectively in the goal moving forward.
Diego Simeone is a perfect example of buying the perfect player for his system and personality for his system. And guess what? They allow him to do what he does because they know he's good at doing it.
yeah, guys, I imagine we're out of time for the question.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to keep yelling at each other.
Thank goodness.
I'm gonna ask another very controversial question. There has been some talk as of late about the head injury discussion. Guys, my question is very simple. Should there be either a fourth substitution allowed in games or a temporary substitution allowed in games to replace a player who is suspected to suffer from a head injury so they can be properly analyzed by a physician?
Yes.
No. No. No.
Yes.
I think.
What do you-
I
what do
think
you-
under
what do
certain
you-
circumstances
what do you
you
wanna
should allow
do?
it. I think under certain circumstances you should.
What do you want to do? So-and-so gets a head injury. Okay, great. You have to take him off. You have to look at him. But so what? You want to sub on little Timmy, the 18-year-old, for 10 minutes and then, oh, he's good. Thanks, little Timmy. Go back on the bench. We don't need you anymore.
So
No.
I'm not an advocate for temporary subs. I'm an advocate for an extra sub, and here's why.
But it's the same concept.
It's not. The
You
same
just pull the
concept.
trigger quicker.
Because Jan Vertonghen came back onto the field.
I get it.
in Tottenham versus Ajax, and he obviously wasn't good to continue. If they had an extra sub, they'd take him off.
They would not.
Yes, they would have. If they had an extra sub
No.
to burn, they would have taken him off.
It has nothing to do with, because when that injury happened, it was early in the match. So they still had all 3 substitutions. So it wasn't a matter of the quantity in which substitutions they had left. It was a matter of, man, we really don't want Vertonghen to come off the field.
But if he's concussed and doesn't even know what zip code he's in, you should take him off the field.
Oh, I agree. And that's why they did. But I don't think a 4th
But
sub
they
makes
did-
that
but
decision
they-
easier.
The medics on the sideline did not take Vertonghen off the field. Vertonghen had to take himself off the field, which is ridiculous because they brought the 4th official over. The 4th official said, hey, guys, he's not good. They brought the ref over. The ref is like, are you okay? And he wouldn't answer. And the doc's like, yeah, he's fine. 30 seconds later, he's done. Right? So don't penalize the team for that. Like, give them an extra sub.
It doesn't even have to be a head injury. It could be an injury.
No,
mean,
head injury
no.
only.
Well,
Head
we're
injury
talking-
only.
Well,
no,
what's the difference? What's the...
That's what I'm saying.
Because players, if they have a tweaked hamstring and they can still run on it, they're not going to do permanent damage to their
Okay,
body.
so
if
let's
it's a
just
head
say-
injury, there could be far, far greater consequences of letting that player continue than there would be if taking them off. So
No,
head injuries cause severe damage and
Because-
should not be taken lightly.
So you're talking only head injuries.
Only head injuries,
Okay,
yes.
so a dude is out there and he breaks his leg.
Okay, sub
You're
them
out
off.
of, and you're out of subs.
Exactly. That's my
But
point. So
that player,
because then you have to
but
you have to
listen.
open the floodgates for
no,
all
you
the
don't.
other big injuries.
No,
Yes,
you don't.
do.
Listen.
You do. You do.
That player definitively, if he breaks his leg, cannot play.
Okay.
If a player
Exactly.
if a player gets a head injury, there is still some semblance of him having the illusion of being able to play because he
Then
can
it's-
still run.
Then it's not a real sub.
He can still walk. He can still talk.
Then it's
too.
not a real sub then.
But if he doesn't know where he is and he can just do worse harm to himself because brain injuries are far worse than your leg injury because this is not just affecting your career, it's affecting
So-
the rest of your life.
if the medical staff says this guy does not need to be on the field,
But the medical staff is biased.
So
Their job is to make sure the player gets back on the field no matter what.
but if the doctor says get off the field,
The doctor, and that's the issue. The
That-
doctor
okay, so-
will not say that.
So here's my thing, and I agree with you. So here's my solution. It has nothing to do with the amount of subs you have. I think a temporary sub is a horrible idea. I think the real issue here is the FA or the governing body of that league should have a set group of medical staff,
Like a third-party doctor.
neutral medical staff at every location, and you must pass the medical check with that specific doctor before you are able to play again.
okay,
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
so all right, so they have that. Let's just say that in our little world that they have that.
Okay.
right? Any serious injury,
Right.
Do they get the extra 4 sub?
no.
No,
Head injuries
Okay.
only. Head injuries only.
No,
That's what
but-
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
but
the
that
dude
but-
goes out, breaks his leg.
So if and
Messi-
you're not
Messi broke his arm.
I
You're
am
not
listen- well,
you're
no,
not-
I
hold
get
on.
it.
Chris isn't listening to me.
No.
So listen, if you break your leg, are you able to run? Yes or no?
No.
If you pull your hamstring and tear it, are you able to run? Yes or no?
No.
If you do your ACL, are you able to run? Yes or no?
No.
So,
But it
given
would be
that,
the same
given
thing
that
as a head injury.
Listen, that Travis Carmichael says it's a sport and you have to run. Do you have to pull a player off? Yes or no? If they have a torn ACL, a broken leg, a torn hamstring, can they continue feasibly?
If they've used all 3 subs,
But listen, do you
have to take
regardless-
them off. Yes,
regardless-
you have to take them
you
off. You have to take them off.
If a player is concussed, can he still run?
yes,
Can he still challenge for balls?
Maybe.
it depends.
Depends on the state of the player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're trying to prevent head injuries because if you're a competitor, if I'm a professional soccer player and this is my job, right? It's my job to go out there and play, and I'm a competitor and I'm playing at the highest level. If I have a head injury, if my legs still work, if I can run, if I can pass, if I can shoot, all that stuff, I'm going on the field regardless of if it affects my mental health down the road, right? Agreed, right? If you're a professional soccer player, doesn't matter
unless you're Pogba.
if you're able to run, whatever. If you're able to run and do that, right? So, but have you watched? There's a ESPN 30 for 30 on the Bears where there's been players literally they got concussions in games and were allowed to come back in, and 20 years later they killed themselves because of all the side effects of it, right?
Yes.
So a player's not going to know right then because he's not a medical professional. Medical professionals will know. And instead of leaving that player on because, like, man, our team's going to be at a disadvantage if we take him off the field, it's better to have a warm body standing up front than have a guy off because at least then he'll have a presence in the box and they'll have to stand and put a guy next to him. Why not, for the player's safety, add a sub, say, hey, if that guy doesn't know who he is and thinks he's Batman, bring another sub in.
But that's also part of the game. That is also part of the game.
Here's my problem with that. And I know where you're coming from and I get it. The neutral medical staff would be a good step for that. And you have to pass a medical test with that medical staffer to get back on the field. Now, here's the problem. The fourth sub, I don't really think does anything because...
But why?
Because I'm going to tell you if you shut up and let me finish. So Vertonghen, you brought it up as the example. So Vertonghen, they didn't sub him immediately because they didn't have enough subs and they were worried, oh no, we might run out of subs. They are worried that, oh no, we don't have Vertonghen to play. So the fourth sub aspect of it, I don't really think is that important because at the end of the day, it's still going to take a while because they would rather have that player on the field than the fourth sub. And so they're going to do everything they can because they want that player and not the other guy.
But that's my argument too, is like that case is a rarity. Most times when head injuries happen, they're toward the end of the game. And so
is that a statistic?
You don't want to bring
statistically proven?
I will do the research. Like
we're talking about a 4 sub though, so that would be towards the end of the game.
I'm saying
like for that instance, like would it be feasible to institute a fourth sub? But that's the ideal situation.
But then you get into the situation, I'm really tired. I go up for a header. Oh, man, ref, I'm dizzy. I need a sub. Oh, it's a head injury. It's a fourth sub. Now we can just bring on a fourth sub for a fourth sub.
I would much rather have that than players continuing to play with head injuries because we've seen it in the Premier League, especially. They're abysmal at this. Hugo Lloris getting knocked out, and Tottenham didn't have a sub left. So guess what? He played.
So I'm not talking about that. I'm saying now you enter into the realm where tactics come into play, and it's I went up for a header. I'm tired. Hey coach, wink wink. I need a sub. My head hurts. I need a sub. Fourth sub. It's a head injury.
But both teams have the same advantage to do that.
But so
there's that, and number two.
But why would the fourth sub? If you're going to do it, it cannot be for just an injury or a head injury. You have to just add a fourth sub.
No, I don't agree with that. I think again, I would like the third party medic to be there, and for any head injury subs, the fourth party medic's got to make the call. Like, okay, if you're faking
he could fake it.
If you're faking it, tough. Go back on the field. If you're not, come off.
What if they can't tell?
Do you honestly think that a competitor at the highest level is going to fake an injury to come out of a big game?
If it's going to make their team better, if it'll give them the tactical advantage.
Highly doubt that.
If they're losing and it's a center back who needs to be subbed off to get an extra forward on, you better believe it.
But if you're that center back, do you not think, because like it's your prerogative to fake the injury, right?
So then you go into the fourth. You go into the fourth. You sub out that guy.
But do you not think that you can influence the game?
And
like
then
as a center back,
and then you get another concussion. Are you going to give him a fifth one?
No.
I mean, it's the same thing.
But you add the fourth sub.
It's the same exact thing.
But it's a precaution. It's a specified substitute for a head injury to protect the players.
You would give them a fifth one then?
You can't. But no.
Would you give them a fifth one?
You give them one. But how likely is it that a player's like...
But that's the point.
A team's going to get two head injuries.
You give them an inch, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to ask for a foot.
Well, then it becomes, okay, any player with the head injury throughout the game gets a free sub. That doesn't count to
I disagree with that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the slippery slope that it starts.
So, okay, congratulations. You got one sub for a head injury. Now, guess what? You're going to have to play a man down.
Okay, so this guy's life in the 70th minute is more important than the guy in the 90th. Guy in the 90th.
It's not that the life is more important. I still want the third party doctor there. So you get one sub, and then after that, if there's another head injury, you got to play a man down. The third party doctor says you're not good, you can't play, you got to come off.
So if you have the third party doctor there, I don't think it matters at all with the fourth sub, because then it's like, hey, he can't play. Oh, he's got to play. We're out of subs. Sorry, he can't play. He's been told he can't play. You got to play down. Deal with it. It's part of the game.
Okay.
Okay, I could
because
be okay with that.
Because
Oh, okay.
then you also have red cards that come into play as well. The game would just be
But
terrible.
red cards are different. Like you're
No, I
cheating.
get that, but
You're
let's just
cheating.
say,
Yeah,
but let's just
producer
say,
Chris, you're going off on.
no, hold on. But let's just say that you get some red cards in the game, and then you get some head injuries. How many players are even left on the field? Come on, I mean, you can't just keep adding.
that's
you
another
can't just keep
proponent-
adding subs.
but that's
what I'm
another
saying.
proponent
You
for the
can't
sub
add
rule.
sub. No, you can't add subs to it if you're going to be adding.
You just
subs.
contradicted yourself.
No.
Producer
What I'm
Chris-
saying is-
producer Chris, on the tack board, we had you lined up at left back. Now you're playing right winger. What are we doing here?
But all I'm saying
my-
is, like, regardless of what
It changes the game. That's what I'm saying. Is that
Okay.
it changes the game completely? Because you also have to remember that there are those incidents, red cards. There's also other injuries that take into place, and there's
But-
real subs, tactical subs that take into place.
But I would say
three
90
have been in
Yeah.
in the game for a long time.
But
and
tactical subs and red cards are deliberate, are they not? If you get red carded 95% of the time, you're trying to foul the guy. Yeah, I'd say.
okay, but what I'm saying is
But
is
head
that will
injuries aren't
change.
deliberate.
But that will change the game as well when you go into the tactical subs and when you go into the head injury subs that you're talking about. So it changes the entire game once you get to the fourth sub. If you were to add it,
Yeah, I just want, like, in all honesty, I'm an advocate for the 4 sub because I think it'll be a more strict concussion protocol, and that's all I want. I want these players not to be, just affected on the field.
and I think we could all agree that
Yeah.
we are thinking about the players.
Yeah,
health.
player safety for sure.
Players'
I want
health
them to
and
have a
safety,
life
yes.
post career.
Yeah,
I
of
don't want
course.
them to put a gun in their mouth,
But it
because
changes the game.
They have head injuries. I don't want them to have an untimely end because a physio said, "Okay, well, it's a Champions League final. Go out there and play," and they have lifetime repercussions because of that. Like, that's what I'm worried about, and that's what Taylor Twellman's worried about with MLS as well. Taylor Twellman, if you're listening to this, and if you ever listen to our show, I would love for you to give your input on this because I know you've been very vocal on Twitter about it. We'll probably tag you in this episode as well, but I want to hear what you want to say. I want to hear your rebuttals to our arguments, and I think that you're as credible as anybody because your career was tragically ended by head injuries, and if only the medical staff would have done more for you, maybe you'd still be playing.
Yeah, guys, moving on. I have a much more lighthearted question to kind of wrap up the show with here. Some heavy topics to start. Moving on here, gentlemen, we look at what is, in your opinion, the best country in terms of style of play when it comes to football.
Spain 2008 through 2012.
Was that a joke?
No, that's my honest opinion.
Would be
You're
my-
completing almost 1,000 passes a game and winning a final by 4 goals. Like,
They won a final by 4 goals?
yeah, Italy came all that way 4-0.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Get it? That's a pun, folks.
Did they win the World Cup by 4 goals?
They won by one goal, but guess what? They still won a World Cup.
They did.
And you, as a man of simplistic facts, should be able to appreciate that.
So, also, fun fact for all the people, I'm going to ruin the Tiki Taka dream here. Did you know that
They won 3 trophies playing tiki taka.
No, they did, but also Tiki Taka is a little less than what you think it is, or different than what you think it is. Did you know that in the World Cup that they won, Spain had the most passes attempted over larger than a 20-yard length?
Yeah,
So
it's still a pass.
no, it is, but like people are like, oh yes, like give and go 5-yard passes.
It's
Meh.
not about short passing. It's about triangles.
It's
And
about triangles.
The triangles they created on the field.
Draw triangles. on
If
the
you go
field.
back and watch the footage of that Spain team, you can be able to recognize the triangles that they had on the field. And the way they played was beautiful. And it was great because it was innovative. Because for, what was it, a 4-year span, they were able to play that way without anybody being able to figure them out.
yeah, and then they figured it out. Do you know how you figure it out?
But it's a 4-year span. Every
Yeah,
time
that's fair.
people play, like, they get figured out, right?
Yeah,
So
no, that's
when
absolutely
Germany
right.
won the World Cup in 2014, right? They got figured out for their next tournament, and they
Right.
didn't even make it out of the group. Spain was able to do it for 4 years.
May I ask who plays a counter-attacking football?
Liverpool.
Liverpool. Other than we're talking about just
International?
International. Since we're talking about Spain, do we know anybody?
The U.S. plays pretty counterattacking.
You could even argue France.
France, yeah,
you could
kinda
argue
plays
France.
counterattacking.
Regardless, I like counter-attacking football
Okay.
Okay,
because
it's
the
smart.
the burst. I mean, some of the most beautiful plays.
It's using your players to your advantage. But even
Exactly.
even France put a little bit more possession.
Yeah, that was just their outlet. Was the counter
But
attack.
my answer for sure, hands down, is Spain from 2008 to 2012.
So it's in,
They were unbeatable. Like, if you looked at it, like, nobody could figure out consistently how to beat them. It was ridiculous.
So one of the first coaches to actually figure it out, and I don't know if it was him or just kind of the generation that figured it out, but how to beat the kind of the Spain tiki-taka was actually Louis van Gaal with the Netherlands.
And what did it get them? It get them not making a World Cup and not making a Euro. So
No, they beat them 5-1 in the next World Cup after Spain won it. But they figured out
they weren't.
It's less to do with the Netherlands and more to like they figured out how to beat that style, and how they did it was just by bypassing the midfield altogether
Long
and just
balls.
playing the ball over the top, which
Yeah.
is one of the greatest goals in World Cup history. Is the Van Persie
Daily
header
Blind to Van Persie?
because he just looks up and said, "I'm going to put it
Respect.
over everybody." Van Persie's just going to head it in the goal
Which-
and then missed high five.
And the 2014 World Cup, like Spain got figured out. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
understand.
about the 4 years that they were dominant. Like for 4 years, it was undisputed that Spain team was the greatest team in the world.
Yeah, but you also look at some of the midfield three are like some of the best players to ever play the game.
But the question wasn't who was the best team with the
I understand
with the most mediocre players. It was who played the best style. And I think that it was
And that-
Spain
and
from
that was-
08 to 14.
That was still
Or to
considered
12, excuse
tiki-taka?
me. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
all right.
tiki-taka.
Quick passing, triangles. If you couldn't find a quick pass, you play the long ball out to one of the fast wingers. Fabregas is the false nine checked into the midfield to overload and to create more triangles. The fullbacks press high and wide. The wingers stayed wide or pressed in depending on what the fullback system looked like, and they were a machine. Xavi, Busquets, and Xabi Alonso, that midfield three was one of the best in international play I've ever seen.
Yeah. Folks, for those of you that can't see at home, Mason has just got out a sheet of paper and has just drawn about 1,000 triangles all over the paper. He's just obsessed with
is a lie.
triangles. It's all
Illuminati
about-
confirmed.
It is
all
it is-
about triangles.
It is the strongest shape.
Oh my!
See?
Why do we give him a mic?
Because he's smart.
For me,
His first take was dumb, but this one is smart.
anyway, for me, I'd say I prefer as a whole this I like the English style. Shocker there.
What's that? Boot it?
Very direct. No, don't boot it. That's nonsense.
We're going to kick it to
Recreational.
Roz and see if he can run onto it, lad.
No,
Recreational, old school.
Yeah.
I like
Stupid.
England because it's direct and they want to go score goals.
Yeah, how many trophies have they won with that?
They won a World Cup, so
Yeah, one. How many did Spain win?
I mean that's fine.
3 trophies.
Yeah, not with tiki taka.
3.
Not 3 World Cups with tiki taka.
They won 3 back-to-back trophies with Tiki Taka, which you can argue that the Euros, out of all the country-specific tournaments, is the highest level.
So I didn't ask
Or
you for the
region
best style. I asked for your favorite. So this is
Which
my
I
favorite. So if
agreed.
you stop talking and let me finish.
Well, you're wrong.
I'm wrong because apparently my opinion is incorrect for myself.
Exactly.
I don't know. This
Correct.
guy's
Finally,
great.
he understands.
Are you hosting?
I don't know. Is he hosting or am I hosting? I thought I was hosting. Apparently not. I'm doing a horrible
This is
job
above your
at
pay
it.
grade, son.
Apparently I'm not getting paid. I don't know about you.
I'm definitely getting paid.
Anyway,
That's
before
why.
I was rudely interrupted by the idiot that likes triangles.
Hey, leave Chris alone.
So he likes rhombuses.
I'm more of a
He's
rhombus.
a rhombus man, more of a trapezoid guy.
I go
Anyway.
based on the shape of my body.
Wow.
Oval.
I like England. I like the direct style. I want to get it forward. I want to go at people.
You want to lose games.
Okay, whatever.
You want to come 4th place in the World Cup.
Okay.
I understand.
All right, whatever, kid. So I also like the Netherlands press of old, where you just see videos of just the orange wall just coming in, just pressing people all together. That was
They
pretty
pressed
cool.
so hard they missed 2 tournaments in a row.
I'm
was
talking about
incredible.
no. I'm talking about the Netherlands of like the 70s and the 80s and like Johan Cruyff days,
Cruyff, yeah.
where like you see that like they have their shape, and as soon as the ball goes backwards, all 10 players press the ball.
I'll give it to you. That's
I would
fine.
hope
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest styles of all
Which is
time.
like
you
Liverpool
novice.
is the closest thing to that now. Nowadays, I think.
Okay.
Who else presses high like that?
Everybody, it's a pressing.
Like who?
a pressing.
Give me 3 examples.
Ajax, Arsenal, Liverpool,
Arsenal does not press.
City.
City does not press when they lose the ball.
It's the age of the press.
Okay.
So
But who does it better than Liverpool? Nobody.
I mean, Liverpool does play a high press, but
Bingo.
It's okay. I mean, Liverpool you can't win the Premier League because they don't have enough triangles on the field.
I'm sorry.
It's not
Is
triangles.
Arsenal in a Champions League final or no?
No, we're gonna win the Europa.
Is Arsenal playing in the Champions League?
That's all right. Best team ever,
I'm sorry.
undefeated.
The past 2
Invincibles.
seasons did they play in the
So,
Champions
so
League?
you like pressing ball.
don't
He
think
likes
so.
the
I like
the
possession.
1 million passes.
Yeah, he likes.
I
We're
would
gonna
rather-
tie 0-0,
I-
but he's gonna have the ball a whole lot, and he's gonna look
We're gonna
really
win.
pretty.
We're gonna break you down.
I would much rather press than 1,000 pass.
Por qué no los
Thank you.
dos? This is a Del Taco commercial or
No, well, because
Old El Paso, that's what it is.
well, because I mean, there's nothing.
Why can't
fun,
you do
there's
both?
nothing fun about it.
So that Spain team did both. When they lost the ball, they immediately tried to win it.
Yeah, but that's a completely different story.
That's a
'Cause
press.
The midfield. Because
Can you agree that that's a press?
yes, but the midfield was a little bit different. That's why.
Okay,
they were only able
but
to do it because of their midfield.
But that makes them the greatest playing team of all time.
We're talking about style of play, not greatest team.
Yeah, style of play. They had possession and attack, and when they lost it, they pressed. That's how you play the game.
But without the players, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, why does it have to be without the players? If that's the style of play,
couldn't
and that's
have-
the generation they had, and they were able to play the way Liverpool plays that way.
Yeah, but you can't do that with every single team, though.
Okay, but we're talking about the
but you're
greatest.
you're talking about the greatest
Okay.
system. We're talking about the greatest.
That is the greatest system.
Well, in your opinion, yes, it is your system. But what I'm saying is that you cannot take that exact same system and put it on every single team and
because
make it
the
work.
teams are mediocre. You're talking about the greatest system of all time. If I had a hand selection of my players, that would be the system that I would play.
That's what I'm-
regardless.
okay.
Because that is the greatest system, which is the question that he asked. He didn't ask what's the most ideal system for the most mediocre players that you have. He
So
asked,
just because
what is
you
the
have
greatest system?
you have a team that is set up to play in a different system, that makes them mediocre.
No, what makes them mediocre is the fact that they are unable to play the game the way that.
Okay, so if you're not able to pass the ball 8,000 times, you're a mediocre player.
I don't think they're as
you don't
good
even
as
make
the guys on
you don't
Spain.
even make the 11.
You're kidding me. So you don't think a guy like, let's say,
You're not going to tell me that Xavi Iniesta and Xabi Alonso are worse than any player that you name as a midfielder. Go ahead.
so you're
Try.
you're telling me like Luka Modric, don't want him.
Well, he could play the system.
Tony Cruz, don't want him.
He could play the system.
Oh, really? They're going to pass backwards 85 times? Does Kyle Beckerman make Spain's team? Because he's really good at going backwards.
They didn't pass backwards 85 times. You're looking at a team that was utterly dominant for 4 years. Name another team that's been that dominant that's been unbeatable for 4 years.
We're not talking about
besides Brazil, which is my second favorite. That Brazil team with Pele that won back-to-back World Cups. That's my other favorite team.
But we're talking about the system.
Exactly.
We're talking about the system.
Name a system that's dominated for 4 years like that.
I mean, every system has their domination.
Yeah,
But for 4
exactly.
years? For 4 years with the same group of players, the same exact system to a T, has that dominated for 4 years other than Spain and maybe that Brazil team.
Fair enough.
I don't think for 4 years, but I mean, I don't think that's the number one.
I'm sorry. What was the first
go-to.
part you said?
I don't think that there has been, but only because I don't have.
Oh, and one more
I
time.
don't have.
I just want to hear it so our listeners can understand.
Just like you said, it can be broken down. After 4 years, everybody figured it out.
But that's the thing, like
After
the game
4 years?
evolves. So like let's
After 4
think
years,
about
right?
Leicester City had
After
the best
4 years.
had the best team in the Premier League for a year. And after that year they were broken down.
No, they were not broken down. They took the two best players and said, money, gone.
Okay.
They bought the best player in the system.
Fair enough. Okay, let's look at the international game then. Let's look at that, right? So Brazil in 2002, they had the best system, the best way to play the game. The next World Cup they lost.
No, I get it. It's the game is always
It's
evolving.
longevity.
It's figuring things out. It's also the fallacy
And
that
look at Manchester City style, right? The best team in England right now. I will concede that as a Liverpool fan. They're the best team in England. What do they play? They play the build-up. They play tiki-taka. They play a version of...
not play tiki-taka.
They played a version of the style that plays Spain. They do. Watch how much they move the ball. Watch how heavily they derive their style
But
from
it's
possession.
motion off the ball, but it's not possession for possession's sake. They like to go forward and they like to go at players.
Neither was tiki-taka. It
I
wasn't
disagree.
just possession for possession's sake. The possession was purposeful. They were trying to break the opponent down and wear them down enough to where they could create gaps, and they did. I rest my case because
But
there's no argument.
I
to that.
still don't think
was
that-
going to say before I was rudely interrupted. So part of it is that people figure out the system, and the other part of it is that the fallacy that, okay, well, these guys won the World Cup for me, so I have to 4 years later use the same team because they're the best team because we won the World Cup, even though they get older and kind of out of it. And so
But they didn't use the same team. They
But that's
didn't.
why That's why every team that wins the World Cup has such a hard time repeating because they have such a hard time shifting in and bringing up that new culture instead of like, oh, those guys won us the World Cup 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So of course, we're going to keep them in our roster.
They were 28 years old. Now they're 32.
Right, exactly.
You know? So it's not the same.
So-
Yeah, that's what I say.
Because from like a fan and media perspective, it's like you aren't going to have those guys on the roster. They won the World Cup for you 4 years ago. So it's a different.
Yeah, but you look at that
I don't
Spain
know.
team.
If it
they
was
didn't.
me, I would bunker and counterattack all day because you can have your 1,000,
Which is a
2,000,
good system.
3,000 passes. You can do that all across the midfield. I don't care. Do it. Go ahead.
It's a good
And
system,
guess
but
what?
I don't think it's the
Guess
best
what?
system.
I'll be waiting.
And that's a
the
game of opinions, baby.
And the second you miss a pass, I am taking 3 forwards and pummeling you.
Which I agree with you. I think that's a good system. I don't think it's the best system.
That's why I love it. It's a game of opinions. We want to hear your opinion. So let us know. Again, Twitter at @B_B_radio. Instagram is box_radio. Facebook, box_radio. And please email us your thoughts and future away leg questions. We'd love to kind of get at the questions you want to hear answered. Our email is 90min@box2boxradio.com. Again, we are on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, and YouTube. Another shout out to Sincerely Yours for some of the best music in Austin. We appreciate you guys letting us use it. I'm Travis Carmichael. That is producer Chris. That is Mason Carmichael. It's been another amazing away leg, and we'll see you guys next week.